It's not in the calendar. I sent it via LinkedIn or I sent it also in your email. That was close. Hi, Josh. Oh, I can't hear you. Let's see. Your audio. Is your mic connected?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Oh, perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. If you need a monitor, you could also go on your YouTube and then just open it up. Just make sure the volume's down.
Perfect. Can you you can hear me okay and no like background noise or anything like that? We're good there?
Yeah, we're good.
Nice.
Let's make sure all my volume is low. Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're cutting it close there for a second. I was like, element of surprise. All right, here we go. And 1. So how would you build a successful partnership program? Let's go. Hey, what's up everybody? Zen here, founder of ClosedWon. Welcome to the ClosedWon Sales Show. Today, I've curated videos from amazing entrepreneurs who talk about skills that are difficult to learn, but if you learn them, they will pay off forever. After that, I have a very special guest, one of my mentors, Josh Harcus. He will share his story on how to push his own superhuman limits while building a successful partnership program. So sit back, relax, and let's learn his journey, his failures, his mistakes, and even his daily habits so that you can follow a path made for bosses. At the end of the show, Josh will share exactly how he closed $750,000 for HubSpot and $135,000 ACV for Huify. We will learn his wisdom, and my goal is to help you close more deals. So stick around.
One of the things you would want to be sure to do is, whether you like it or not, get very comfortable, it may take a while, with public speaking, for example. I mean, that's an asset that will last you 50 or 60 years, and it's a liability if you don't like doing it and are uncomfortable doing it, that also will last you 50 or 60 years, and it's a necessary skill.
It is a very difficult skill to learn. So a personal anecdote. In Hawaii, I was always happy to speak in public, no big deal. But the minute I got and moved to San Francisco, I felt like an imposter. And some of the reason, I actually don't know why. I just had anxiety. My palms would sweat. My voice would crack. I couldn't breathe. My face would turn red. I actually recall a moment working at Yelp. I was around 22, 23 years old. And my boss asked me to speak in front of the whole sales organization because I was able to go 0 in sales my first month and then 30K my second month. And I completely choked. It was all a blur. It was awful. The only thing I remember, like, stuttering out of my mouth at the end of the entire speech was, "Mark my words, I will learn this skill. public speaking, and I just practiced it over and over and over again. So let's learn tip number 2.
Well, first of all, I prioritize sleep. And that means saying no to things you want to do. It's not easy.
No, it's hard. I think the hardest thing. Yeah.
Last night, Sheryl Sandberg interviewed me at the San Francisco Symphony Hall. And then I had to sign books. And I would have loved to go and have dinner with her, but I went to bed. And, because if I had gone out to dinner and hadn't gotten my at least 7 hours sleep that I need and had to get up early to do TV, I would not be enjoying being here with you now. And I'm really enjoying it. And I'm 100% present. I'm not tired. And I hate being tired more than I hate anything.
Thank you, Arriana. It actually took me years to learn this good habit. Again, in my 20s, I remember thinking to myself, sleep is for the weak. And hustle, don't sleep. Honestly, to be good at anything, you'd have to be able to enjoy it. And you can't really enjoy things when you're tired. And so this is a really long lesson I had to learn for about 10 years. This is one of my favorite daily habits to learn. And so my next guess, he probably doesn't sleep actually because he has so many projects, so much hustle, so much grind. As my mentor, he challenged me to make a video every day on YouTube. He's always on the go. And so today we get to learn from him. Let's get started. Josh built and scaled an agency that delivers inbound marketing services. The companies like Fujitsu, iControl, Linnworks, PandaDoc, and more. He got inbound leads by writing a book, making a rap video, hosting HubSpot's largest inbound marketing day event as a hug leader. He is the founder and growth expert at Huify, which is ranked number 2 at HubSpot for 3 years. Today, he's going to share how he achieved a 60% closing ratio and close over $135,000 in ACV. In addition to that, he sold over $750,000 in HubSpot software. And so today we get to learn from him. He's going to teach us how to create a successful partnership program. Please help me welcome Josh Harcus.
How's it going? Thanks for having me, Zen.
It's been so long. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, enjoying Austin, Texas. It's been fun living here. And we've been bouncing around a fair amount during COVID, and yeah, it's been crazy getting used to the new norm. But at the same time, it's great for when you already know how to sell online and when you already know how to utilize these kind of tools, because for most of us it's second nature, but everybody else is kind of figuring it out for the first time.
Right. Have you met Elon yet? I heard he moved out there.
Not yet, but one of my buddies who was staying at my place, I can't give out his name, but he did a whole magic show for Elon and his family. So I'm like second degree away connected to Elon.
Nice. All about the degrees. It's getting smaller and smaller. The world is getting smaller. So let's start from the very beginning. Walk us through your origins, your inspiration. Share with us Josh's story from childhood to I'm serious. From childhood, like where you were born, your mindset as a kid, teenager. What kind of teenager were you in high school? Were you the popular kid? Were you bullied? Like, I want to know these things, right? And then I know we've gone through this before, and so our audience needs to understand this. And so from there, how did you become the founder of Huify? So take it away.
Wow. Okay, sure. So I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is where Colorado State University is located. And I was homeschooled until 9th grade. And so I think a lot of maybe my charisma, my charismatic attitude, all of that probably stems a little bit from being homeschooled and not really knowing better, not
Oh.
knowing that it's uncool to do different things or to stand out or whatever else. And part of being homeschooled allowed me to invest a lot of time into other things other than what my friends were doing, which was sitting in a classroom. And so I actually studied magic tricks and got really into magic for about almost 12. So from like 6 years old all the way to about 18 years old, I just really devoted a lot of time to it and took it to a place where I actually even started street performing open air to earn tips. So a lot of how I learned sales and how I learned even how to public speaking and how to get up in front of people and confidence and all that all goes back to those street performing days of doing magic for tips and kind of learning that way. So that's kind of where it all started, was parents that pushed me to, hey, if you are interested in that, go for it and keep going for it. So yeah, it was cool. So that's kind of where it started. Where would you like me to go next? I'm happy to keep diving into any area you want.
Yeah, move into from the origins. I remember there was this one of the first times we met a long time ago at one of the PandaDoc parties. You were sharing with us this viral video that went like crazy, and it was like a way for you to basically meet with Sarah and so on. Like dive into that experience, because I think that today there's a lot of kids out there, they're going viral. And so what do you do with that kind of virality, right? And so that's where I'm kind of thinking.
Sure, happy to. So I'll talk a little bit even about kind of college days too. So I graduated from college in 2011. And why I bring that up is because it was a pivotal point in digital media and social media where, like Facebook business pages came out while I was in college. And so I was very much a part of that, very much saw what it looked like. I was among the first kind of groups to be able to get access to Facebook through your college email address, all those kind of things. And so for me, it just made more sense. And I didn't have any money. I didn't know how to drive. I had a DJ business that paid for college. And so I kept trying to figure out, how do I market this DJ company? How do I don't even have money to, I was thinking newspaper ads back then. I was like, I don't even have money to take out a newspaper ad. Like, how do I do this? And Facebook business pages comes out. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll create a business page. Well, within the next 2 weeks, I booked 6 formals, which was the equivalent of like $6,000 that went straight in my pocket from my Facebook business page. And so because all my friends saw, oh my gosh, Josh, he's a DJ. And oh, look, it's the DJ company. Like, we'll just use that company for our formal. And so kind of right out of the gate, I was like, wow, you can make money off this. Like this works. Oh, wow. This is really cool. And shortly after that, there was a classmate of mine, Brittany. She goes, Josh, I want to throw a flash mob rave. And I'm like, oh, Brittany, don't. This is kind of the rage. Everyone was trying to do it. So I went to UNCW, which is in North Carolina. And so like UNC had just had their flash mob. And I think, NC State had their flash mob. And so we were like, we should do it too. Like, let's do a flash mob. And so I'm telling Brittany, I'm like, Brittany, do you even have, do you have sound equipment? Do you even have speakers? Like, do you have a microphone? She's like, no, I have these little like computer speakers. We'll be fine. I'm like, okay, how about this? I'll help you with the event. Just keep my name off of it, because I was an RA. Like, just keep my name off of it. I was like,
a residence advisor. For those of you who don't know what an RA is, it's actually the cops that's supposed to take care of dormitory college students. So you're supposed to be the leader of the floor.
I was a student leader, all this. And I at the time, I said, look, if you get 200 people to RSVP, I'll bring all my equipment. and we'll throw this flash mob rave in the library. Well, I had read some things about how to make events go more viral and all this. And so I just put out some simple instructions of how to invite all of your friends. And lo and behold, the event blows up. Pretty soon, 15,000 people have been invited to this flash mob rave. So comes actual time for the event. Show up to the library. People are showing up without backpacks. You hear the murmur of the noise of the crowd just like getting louder and louder. And sure enough, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are crowds, like people dropping off groups of people to the library because there's no parking because there are so many people there. And 3,000 students show up to this small library to do this flash mob rave. So we did this rave. It was great. It was an awesome event. But why I'm telling that story was it was one of those pivotal moments where I realized not only can you make money from social media, but you can cause real change. And we hadn't seen, this is back in 2010. So, you know, the Obama campaign hadn't happened yet. A lot of these big, you know, Israel hadn't been overthrown, or a lot of the big government things that happen using social media that now we're like, oh yeah, that social media can drive change. Back then, this was so unique and so different. And so those were some of the early times. There's a few of those like crazy viral things that were able to happen where you're able to see not only can you cause change and get people to do things, but also, I mean, you can drive sales. And so that's kind of, that was I got a little taste of what it was like to then go all into that career of how do I drive people that are trying to find something, that are trying to find a solution to what they want online. And then how do we connect the dots and actually get them to commit to a service contract or buy our product or whatever else from there.
Yeah, you're just connecting the dots, aren't you? You were born to be an inbound marketer. I feel like it. Yeah.
100%.
So it's so crazy because I actually have this rap video set up. I'm about to just share the rap video that you put together in order to build the inbound marketing. You got to do what you got to do, right? But I also want to show that flash mob. So the thing is, I was searching the web. I was trying to find the video. I remember it was in a library. It breaks down, but people still party. Like even though like there was a blackout or something that happened. It was such a memorable video. Are you able to find it and do a quick screen share while I play this rap video? This rap video is gonna take around 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little tricky for me to find it, but I can tell you it's UNCW Randall Rave. If you type that in,
for real,
it'll pop up. I promise.
UNCW.
You can even type in UNCW, yeah, and then Randall Rave. RANDALL. It's the name of the library, and then Rave.
I think I might have found it.
It's super noisy, by the way. Some of them are. By the way, so the one that got the most views because there was a bunch of videos. It was taken on a GoPro, and when we watch it. Notice how few people are on their phones because this is 2010. So people weren't using their camera phones. Snapchat wasn't that thing yet. So that's probably the craziest part about this video is how little people actually use their phones.
How engaged they were, like how they actually listened, because now listening is apparently a skill that must be learned. So, okay, real quick, I'm gonna play the rap video. I'm gonna queue up this viral video that went live. Here we go. Rap video. In order to get inbound leads, build a rap video.
Hey, Mr. DJ, drop that beat.
So you make content and you want attention. Let HubSpot push you in the right direction. When you want to log in your audience, all you gotta know is what they want to get. So write a blog or something when you're on the rise. You better keep the search engine optimized. User experience satisfaction. Reel them back in with a call to action. We made contact on the landing page. Roger that, put them in the database. Nurture those leads if you want to save them. We call that marketing automation.
I'm into this. I am so appealed.
Attract, convert, and close the deal. Now your customers get to work while you kick back, let them spread the word.
while I cue this up. Oh, Josh, good job. Please walk us through your mindset. Like why a rap video at that time? Like, what was that the first inbound thing that you did? Or was it the first inbound thing? Have you tried different ideas and experiments that might have failed?
Yeah, no, great question. So we got into doing inbound marketing as a new agency. So I founded my agency in 2012. We're fasting forward a little bit here, and it's so hard to differentiate. I mean, even in a small town, we're talking like Wilmington, I think has like 250,000 people, not a huge place. I think there was 14 marketing agencies in that town when you looked up on Google or you looked up in the phone book or whatever else. And if you even know how to find a phone book. So it's crazy to see how many agencies there were, and differentiating yourself from the person down the street was close to impossible. So one of the things that we did was I had seen HubSpot speak at an early event. I mean, this is early days of HubSpot, when I think HubSpot had maybe 50 employees. I mean, they were a really small company at the time, but I had seen them speak in an event and realized this is the future. I mean, using a platform that incorporates everything, this whole inbound marketing thing, this is really interesting. This is totally different than what everybody else is talking about. No one in my city, let alone even my state, was an inbound marketing agency. And so that was one of the first things we did to differentiate was let's figure out how to become a top HubSpot partner, because it's so focused on revenue, it's so focused on results, and everything you need is right there. Both you and the client have full transparency on what's going on. And so we were like, all right, let's fully commit. And so we started raising up a team around that and training people. One of the guys that came to work for us ran a YouTube channel where they do video game raps. And so John, he's kind of like the business side. He worked for us because he came in and said, hey, he goes, I've got this YouTube channel. I think it's taking off, and I want to learn how to market, how to manage communities, all this. Can I work for your agency and learn all this stuff? And so he would work 9 to 5, and then at 5 p.m. he would jet home and then work on this YouTube channel with Christian, who's the guy who's the star who's singing that inbound rap video. And so part of just like when you're scrappy, and I think this is at any stage in your business, you should always look at like, what are all the assets we have? Well, one crazy asset we had was this musical talent. So we were like, this is interesting. How could we stand out, not to future prospects, but to HubSpot? Because if we can get HubSpot to talk about us, they're the ones that have all the leads coming to them. And when someone says, hey, I want to talk to a good partner, we want Huify's name to come up. And so we didn't care if the video went viral. We cared if it went viral inside HubSpot. So we created this whole inbound rap video. This is way before ABM was a thing and all this that people were throwing out as a phrase. But we were like, you know what? No one is doing this type of content, and we have this talent in-house. Now, fast forward, John and Christian, JT Music is the channel. You can check it out. They're approaching 4 million subscribers now. I mean, they have really like just rocketed up, and now they're huge. I mean, they have more subscribers than Gary Vee does, to put it in perspective, on YouTube. Wow. So huge channel, blowing up, great success there. But part of it was, well, we've got video equipment. We have these stars. Let's just film a video and film a rap about inbound marketing. We gave Christian a list of keywords, some things to say in the rap, and then he just took it and ran with it from there. And it worked. It worked insanely well. I mean, people were forwarding it to each other inside HubSpot. They were sending it to each other in Slack. And it was one of those ways that we were like, all right, this is another way that Huify can kind of infiltrate or outboundy inbound.
Yeah, outthink all of the partners.
Yeah.
leveraging what you already have. The skills, again, back to the skills. What do you already know? And so in this case, it's music. In this case, you had equipment. And so put that together and voila, you got HubSpot employees talking about you, putting you on a pedestal. Therefore, all the leads go to Huify. So smart.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Especially
That is
because a lot of times at these stages, they don't have, like nowadays, HubSpot has a very rigid structure. It's the lead sharing. Same with Salesforce, right? They've got a very
Right.
structured platform. And if you have to be this tier or this way or whatever. But especially in the early hacky days of working with businesses, if you do anything to stand out, chances are you will have a bigger ripple effect inside that company that you're trying to reach than you even realize. And so it can help you. I mean, it helped bring in some significant leads to us that we wouldn't have seen because we did something different than what everyone else was doing.
Right. Yeah, this is very true. So currently I'm working full time at Localize, and we get tons of leads, hundreds of leads, but I only funnel most of those leads to certain partners because one, we've developed good relationships. They stick out, they work hard for those deals. And number two, they will literally go above and beyond to provide the best services. And so those are the two things I'm looking for. So earlier, I said I was going to play this video. Instead, what I'll do is create a restream of this entire format and then include this video so that we can continue on with the show.
Love it.
All right. So my next question then is, failures, some of the things that actually didn't work in terms of experiments or just lessons that went wrong.
That's a good question. Of course, early days of starting any company, human resources, hiring the wrong people.
No.
That's always something that you learn the hard way. And you want to feel like, oh, I'm a good judge of people's character and people. And like, I'll be great at picking out who good workers are and who aren't. I learned really quickly, I'm probably actually not even the best person on my team to be picking out people or even doing some of the interviews, because by nature, I tend to believe that people are awesome and not everybody is awesome. And you don't want to hire people that aren't awesome. And so, there was a lot of challenges there for sure. But I would say one that stands out to me that I wouldn't say it was a complete failure. It just didn't get the results we wanted in the time we wanted it to happen. And that was investing in events. So we were able to partner up with the business journal of our city, who threw these huge breakfasts where 500 business owners would come I think it was like once a quarter or something like that. And they would do these business breakfasts, and you had to buy seats or tables or whatever to go to the event. But what we did is we leveraged our relationship with HubSpot to bring a speaker from HubSpot to that breakfast. And in exchange, we basically got credit for sponsoring the whole event. And then I got to get up on stage and say something. Well, where I would say the failure, all that was awesome. And honestly, that was it was a huge event. I mean, 500 business owners, no other person had done an event of that. No other agency had done an event of that size, period. And so we were able to, up until that point, now agencies have thrown their own conferences. They've done a bunch of other things. But again, how do you stand out inside HubSpot and get business, right? So we threw that event. The only problem was we didn't connect the dots for the business owners. We didn't really think through where those business owners were, and the fact that even the inbound marketing things that we were sharing to them, it was just so much information and there wasn't any good tangible next steps for them. And so okay, you've heard this whole talk about inbound. Now, why don't you take this grade and see how you grade on doing inbound, on how your business stands on doing inbound? Or why don't you take this template and use it for XYZ. Just something that was small that they could take action on to learn something more, take the next step on. And so because of that, we got zero business from that event. Now,
Dang.
fast forward,
Yeah.
we wound up getting business 2 years later from people that were at that event. And they talk about how that event was part of their journey. But still, as a small business, you can't wait 2 years for someone to come in. You may not make it 2 years if you don't get business. And so that was a time where we were really faking it. I mean, we were like, it was tough to get by, and we did not have the revenue coming in that we needed. And here we are throwing this huge event, and it made it look like we sponsored the whole thing, like we're just blowing cash and like we're rolling in it. The reality was we were like, man, how are we gonna
get them?
I hope this works, because what's this gonna look like? But if I was to do it all over again, I'd say the lesson in our failure was, okay, they're here. What's that small, easy, tangible next step that they could take that would draw them closer into a relationship with us?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great segue to our next question. What not to do when you're building your partnership program. And so you started off with making sure that you have next steps, tangible, actionable steps, a call to action that people will do when you throw any type of event or any type of meeting for that matter. Or this show right here. What is my call to action, right? My call to action is, guys, if you're new here, subscribe. That's it. Just subscribe, right? Right now. And so what are partnership, like, don't do these things. Like, you must not do these things, otherwise, you're gonna feel the pain of building a small business partnership program.
And just to, so I'm making sure that and you're talking about if you're building like a partner channel underneath your business, like you want partners to basically refer business or work on companies on your platform or whatever. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah.
Exactly the same way you built Huify for HubSpot.
Perfect. Yeah. So yep, and Huify, exactly. So first things first, I would say is you need to give it time. So one of the gauges is I think it takes something like 2, and this was 4 years ago when I heard this stat. So at this point it's probably 3 years, but it takes 2 years, if not now 3 years, before you're going to see a positive ROI from your partner program.
Wow.
So when you're looking at a partner program, you really need to look at it as truly an investment. And it needs to be something that's like, no, I understand how partner programs work. I've got a good understanding based on all the research I've done of all the partner programs out there. I understand that, Microsoft gets, I think it's like for every $1 Microsoft makes, their partners make 8, and so it's like a massive ecosystem. Or I think it's something like 60% of HubSpot's revenue is managed by partners. I don't know the exact stats for Salesforce, but very similarly, they grew off the backs of a partner program. The Platform Zero built a partner program for accountants, and that's how they blew up. So those are the kind of case studies, and those are kind of stories I would research and look at, because you learn how much time it takes. And the reason why it takes so much time is because you're asking another business to change the way they work to fit your solution. So you're not asking them to just refer business. Some partner programs are very slimmed down, and that's all it is, and that's great. That's awesome. If you can keep it just to lead referral, fantastic. And it can be a great, here's a rev share, use your link,
Right.
people buy, great. That's
Affiliates.
also called affiliates. Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's affiliate channel. But if you're looking at a VAR, a value-added service, a value-added reseller, then you're looking at someone who is building services or building business solutions on top of your solution. And so one of the things I've seen with HubSpot especially is partners give up because they're like, man, this is a massive investment. If you don't go all in, you're probably not going to be a successful partner. And the reason why you have to go all in is because of how much of an investment it is for your staff, for you to create solutions that make the same, you have to speak the same language, you have to use the same jargon. You shouldn't call them visits if it calls them, sessions, or you shouldn't call them leads if it calls them contact, whatever it is.
Right.
You need to make sure that all those things are in sync, because if not, you're going to confuse your customers, and they're going to be when they're trying to do business with you, they're going to be like, wait, isn't this solution we just bought this software and they're saying it's this, but when I get in our weekly meeting, you tell me it's this, that's going to provide a lot of confusion. And most marketers, and this is hard because a little bit of a segue out of partner program to specific niche, which is marketing. Most marketers are not good at sales. And I would even take that a step further to say most people that are technicians, meaning they're actually doing the work, they're building out the implementation, or they're integrating this, or they're doing this, typically they're not good salespeople. And so they're not going to do a great job selling your solution. So you really have to build in a trust between them where you can say, hey, bring me into the meetings so I can help you close this deal. And don't worry, I'm going to also help you sell your services too. I'm not going to just come in and sell our software and peace out.
That's right.
I'm going to help talk you up and make sure that you get this business as well, because I know you're only making $50 to $500 a month off of our software, but your services cost $10,000 a month. So really, you care very little about the software side. That's just kind of an afterthought, but really you care the most about, your services, because that's what's paying the bills.
That's awesome. Let me try to recap that. So, things to not do. Number one, do not be impatient, because becoming a value add reseller. So for those of you who don't know, a VAR is different from an affiliate. An affiliate is someone who gets a link, like an Amazon link, and then you can start selling those products from Amazon and you get some rev share. A value add reseller, for example, let's say this YouTube video the technology is YouTube, but they need people to provide content. So essentially, the content creators can be value add resellers because they're creating content around the technology. So that's just one example. There's many more. All of the technologies out there, they need some kind of services built around their technology. For instance, PandaDoc, they need documents written for them, documents created and designed. So there's a lot. Like this video right here, this is an eCam technology, but they will need value add resellers to build the overlays and the text and the fonts and the audios. Whoever's going to do that, whoever builds that kind of partnership
what type of equipment you should use, what type of stuff you should put in. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a value add reseller. So do not give up. Don't give it a haphazard effort. Don't confuse terminologies. Make sure you're using the right glossaries, right? And make sure you're consistent. And that is how you build a strong partnership. And so that brings us to our next question. Josh, how did you close your first 10 deals?
Ooh, this was tough. This is so hard, Zen. Oh my God.
I know, you got to break it down. Okay, oh man, yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard, but try to break it down in.
No. It was hard. Like literally closing the first 10 deals was exhausting. It was so hard. So keep in mind, our sales cycle now is 1 month. It is literally like as soon as it starts to go over 1 month, you already know, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit. I don't know, like what's going on. Like I thought we agreed on all this stuff. Is this a top priority? All the sales stuff. But it's a little bit of like a check to see like truly is this prospect going to be a good partner to work with here, or should we cancel because they're taking too long? Our first deal took 9 months to close. 9 months. That same, showing up to events, going on panels, all this stuff that we were like, oh, is this even working? I don't know. And then we would get a lead and we're like, oh, it's working. And then that lead would be like, oh, but we're only going to buy this type of stuff in July. It's like, that's oh my gosh, that's like 4 months away. Like, are you serious? You're not going to work with us. Like, we need money now. Why are we even talking now? But kind of a note before that. So I actually launched my agency with 4 clients. So part of one thing I always tell people, I'm backtracking a little bit here, because that first official from zero, no contact to lead to us closing it, that one did take 9 months. But before I launched, I had been working for an agency that only provided training. They didn't actually do any true, what we think of today as services. They didn't do any of those services because they were too scared of writing posts for clients or doing any of those kind of things. They were worried. This is back in the days where you thought, hey, we might get sued for saying the wrong thing on social or something like that. But the clients, that's what they were asking for. And they were coming back and saying, Josh, we love working with you. It makes sense. You know what you're talking about. How much can I pay you to just do it for us? Well, I don't have time, bandwidth. I don't have even the budget to bring on another FTE, but I could spend like $4,000 a month. And so part of when you launch something or when you're starting something new, one of the things I always encourage people is always jump with a parachute. Never jump without a parachute. And what I mean by that is always have a way to make sure that money is going to come in from day one, because if not, you're going to stress yourself out and make really bad decisions in the short term that are going to cost you in the long term, because you have to pay your bills. And so it's going to cause a lot of frustration and a lot of back and forth. So it's best to be working in the same field or in the same area, ideally learning on someone else's dime. So then when the timing is right, you can jump. And the way that went down was basically I walked back to I was a contract employee, so I was a contractor at the time. I learned real quick the difference between 1099 and W-2 when tax season came in that first year. But I walked back to my boss, the employer, and I was like, hey, these are all these potential contracts that these people want to do these services, but we would have to do all this work for them. Do you want to do this? And he was like, no, we do not want to do that. And I was like, well, great. I do. Here's my 2 weeks. I'm out. And so I launched Huify with that kind of launch pad. And that's what helped me learn, helped me iterate, pay at least the bills for the first few months while we started figuring out how to get a client, which took, obviously, as you know, over 9 months,
9 months
to start landing that first true inbound client.
So once you got your first client, then was it kind of like a referral effect where you got the first one referred the second referred the next?
Yeah, exactly. So I know a lot of people talk about like the importance of your first case study and all that. It's really true. I mean, it is really true. So one of the clients that we actually made the least money on went the most viral. And so it was a free app. It's now known as Untapped, for those who are familiar with wine and beer. It's a great beer app for rating beers and deciding which and collecting badges on which beers you've had, which ones you haven't, whatever. But when they launched, they had a very clear mission to take their user base from, they knew what ads were costing them. And so they were like, how do we add a viral effect to this where we know how much it costs us to get an email address from Facebook, but how do we multiply that email address by 2x? If we can do that and get them to do these 6 things, then we'll be able to hit our next funding round. Because they had to hit a certain level of users as on the app, as well as a certain number of actions to show the investors, hey, there's really something here. And what we did is we basically retooled HubSpot's workflows to take people through a whole system. It's another time, another topic.
Yeah.
But that was a viral case study that we were able to take to HubSpot, show HubSpot how amazing this was. They didn't have any app case studies at the time. So it was one of the first ones that they got. Also, they didn't even have many workflow case studies at the time. So we were able to show up for that too. So there's one of those things where we took one client, and because we did such great work for them, even though we made very, very little on the client, we leveraged that case study for so much more business. And that's actually what referred some of our top leads, because once HubSpot saw what we did with them, they were like, wow, if they can do that with this type of a company, then all these leads that just came in are a great fit for that agency. And we got, I think that might even be how I think that's how we were referred Canon at the beginning.
So basically, the way you got your first 10 clients is you just like gave a white glove service, gave it your all to Untapped, even though they closed in 9 months for minimum price point. And that case study that you were able to build, it impressed HubSpot, which gave you more leads, and also more leads because it's out there now, it's published. And that's a great way. I mean, that's actionable. This is very doable. So focus on the first client, give them your best shot, service, make sure they get good results, and then publish a case study. A really good, a badass case study that can be repurposed and reused, so that the company that you're working with highlights it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that last point that you said is the most important, because reality is people aren't searching for case studies. They don't really care, right? Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your business. Like nobody's like, oh, wow, new case study. Whoa, maybe we should work with them. You know, it's more of, if you can create a case study that makes the client look awesome, and how you just did a couple things to make them look that much more awesome, they will share that out. When people are like, how did you do this? They'll give you credit. And they'll be like, oh, you know who you should really talk to is Huify. You should talk to our agency. Look at this case study. I mean, this is what they did for us. And they'll share that out. Then you've got that trusted referral. That's that referral that'll come back to you, because they're like, hey, we know the work you did for so-and-so. We'd like to work with you. And that's a great place to begin your business before you're starting to rank in SEO and before you start getting those net new clients.
Yeah, very actionable tips, solid tips. Thank you, Josh. So before I ask my last question, tell our viewers where to find you.
Yeah, so you can, if you just search Josh Harcus, whatever platform you prefer. I hang out a ton on LinkedIn and on Instagram. But these days, not as much on Snapchat, but still occasionally on Snapchat as well. But
Clubhouse?
What I would say, a little bit on Clubhouse. You know, I haven't really bitten off on that one. That's been a new one. I had taken a break from social media for a while, so I'm getting back into it. But what I would say is probably the smartest thing is go to Huify.com, so HUIFY.com, and just grab any of those resources, whether it's an assessment or whatever. We're rolling out a bunch of new, really awesome courses, and we're going to roll that out to our entire email list. So if you sign up for any of our, or if you download any of our offers or anything like that, you'll get an email about our courses. And that's probably the best place to connect, because we got some really cool stuff coming out.
There you go. Let me play this video, and then I'll ask you about how to close deals.
Sales.
They did a study at Harvard of the different levels of sales techniques that were the most in top sales guys in the world and women used versus those that were average. They went through several steps about getting rapport, about understanding the client's needs, about being able to demonstrate the features and benefits of the product, and going through overcoming objections and then closing the sale. And they looked at it, and what was surprising was that the people who were the absolute cream of the cream, the top 1% of the top 1% of salespeople on the planet, did exactly the same steps as those who were average. The difference was that those that were exceptional focused on the first part, which is being able to build rapport, being able to understand the client's needs. In other words, there was a sincere level of appreciation for what the client wanted. The intention that was set, the congruency that was set was, how can I serve you? How can I understand you? Not how can I sell to you? In other words, how can I contribute rather than how can I take? Now, here's what's interesting. The people that focused more on that spent far less time on the closing and overcoming objections. It was almost a natural progression of the sale. Those that spent less time on building rapport and understanding the client's needs and creating the relationship of trust based upon a level of sincerity, appreciation, and authenticity of who they were. Those that spent less time on that and got through to the sale or got through to trying to close the sale had to spend more time on overcoming objections and closing techniques to make up for a lack of authentic connection and wanting to add value to the client. Does that make sense? You don't have to learn better closing techniques unless you focus on being less than authentic about adding value to the client. Hello? Yeah, so going on sales training is usually a substitute, and a poor substitute, for coming to the table from a place where you say, you know something, I am willing to let this sale go if I sincerely, and every core of my being, every cell in my body vibrates the fact that this really isn't the best product or type of deal for the client. If you can come to the table from that place rather than be hooked on the fact that your manager has given you a sales target and you need to make a close this Friday, then by contrast, by paradox, your sales tend to go up.
So there you go.
Oh,
Josh,
so good.
Tell us, how does Josh close deals?
Man, what that video already unpacked was awesome. I think I'll just build off of that because I feel like there's so many things I can relate to there. So really, when we think of closing deals, we think of ABC, right? Glengarry Glen Ross, right? Always be closing, right? The reality is, it's more always be helping. And when I say helping, I mean, think of the big picture. Think of in 5 years, in 2 years, whatever, if you can't think 5 years out, in 2 years, what will be a better scenario for the person I'm talking to? Because reality is you're a pro. Whatever you're selling, you are an expert at that. No one else sells or talks about it as much as you do, because that's all you do is sell that thing and talk about that thing day in and day out with so many different people. You've interviewed hundreds of people, prospects, on what you're doing, and you've helped them, right? So the more you can stand out as someone who is helping, and the more you can look at what's going to happen with this client in 2 years if they go forward with this solution. Is this going to be a good thing for them or a bad thing for them? But a lot of us for sales, we think quarterly because that's tied to our quota, right? We think, shoot, I have to hit these numbers, and if I don't, I won't get my quota. And the best salespeople, they're ones that are willing to walk away from a deal because they know this isn't a good fit. Let me give a story. So I was working with a client in Germany, and I meet the CEO, and he and I, it's like two peas in a pod. I mean, the CEO is awesome. We get along real well. He's a little more quiet and reserved, but he's funny. He's very tech. He hates sales. He doesn't really like getting out there. They sold this crazy spam email solution only brought on by the Fortune 5, one of those very, very convoluted type software projects. You're like, okay, wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. That's awesome and crazy. He said, hey, I love everything, but before we work together, I want you to meet with my VP of sales and marketing. And so we can make sure there's a good fit here and all this. Well, I meet with his VP of sales and marketing, and the guy is the most arrogant, just to keep it, he's a jerk. He's a huge jerk. And I realized this isn't gonna work well. Like, this is gonna suck. Like, working with this guy is gonna suck. So we'll call him Steve. His name wasn't Steve, but we'll call him Steve for now. So Toby was the CEO, who was awesome. So I called Toby right after that meeting, and I said, "Look, I met with Steve. We had a lengthy discussion. I'm just going to be blunt with you. We are not going to work with you until you fire Steve."
Oh.
And that was one of those things. Now, here's the thing. Just like that video said, because I had built that rapport with Toby, I could cash in, and he didn't just hang up the phone on me and say, well, screw you too, even though that wasn't the intent. I just told him, I said, look, we've got a rule that we don't work with jerks, and it's going to be really hard for us to get the results that you need to grow your business, because we're always going to be fighting with Steve. And frankly, I can already tell he's not a good fit. That was it. Toby goes, well, sorry, man. It sounds like we probably won't be a good fit. Fast forward 8 months later, I get a call from Toby, and he says, hey, I'm firing Steve Monday. Please tell me we can still work together. He became one of the best clients that stayed with us the longest any client had ever stayed with us. Years. And it was all goes back to, if I had started with him, it would have been a terrible relationship. It would have been really, really bad. And it would probably have only lasted 3 months. But because I realized this isn't good for you, I'm going to tell you what you really need to hear. And that's, frankly, you need to fire this person. They're not a good fit. They don't know what they're talking about. They're not going to get you to where you want to go. And granted, even though I shared it then and they weren't ready to hear it then, after it really sunk in, who was the first person he called, even before he had fired Steve?
You.
This guy.
Yeah.
So when we get back to thinking about sales, yes, there's tons of tactics. Yes, there's tons of strategies. The reality is, if you just slim it all down to, if this was my business, what would be the best decision? If my prospect's business was my business, what would be the decision that would set them up for the most success? And specifically, especially if you're not talking to a business owner, what would set up this individual to look the best internally? Go with whatever that is, even if it's against your solution. Because if you do that, their respect for you will skyrocket, and you never know what the future will hold. I've had multiple people come back like that through different, now not every conversation was, hey, you need to fire so-and-so, but it was like, whether it was like, hey, what you want isn't what we do. We actually do this. So whenever you're wanting this, I'm happy to talk about that, but let me suggest some people that actually do what you want. And then a year later, they come back to us and they're like, hey, we know what you do now. We get it. Best clients to work with. So thinking, just to put myself in the day life of a standard rep, what I would say is you will be so grateful for the clients that you invest in that are a good fit versus spending time on clients that aren't. That's really it. And because the ones that are a good fit, you can provide the most value for, because you understand them the most. They're a good fit. You know it's going to work. And so invest there, go all in there. And then the ones that aren't a good fit, that you absolutely know, maybe I can squeak this one across. Maybe I can just get them to sign. It's just not worth it. Can you get a couple deals like that? Absolutely. Will it turn out very well? Probably not. It's probably it's just not a safe bet. It's a bet. You can make it. It's risky. You may pay out. But the reality is, 9 times out of 10, you might get a clawback, worst case scenario. You might get a bad rapport. You definitely aren't going to get an advocate in that business. Whereas if you had just told that same business, hey, don't go this route, go this route instead. Don't go with me, go this route. Who knows how many businesses they might refer to you. And so instead of making 1 sale, you sacrifice that 1 sale. You might make 6 sales, 7 sales, because they're like, hey, talk to so-and-so, talk to so-and-so, and talk to so-and-so. This guy is trustworthy. He told me not to work with him. And they'll be like, no, are you kidding? Oh, I'm calling him right up. So that's one thing I would just very much suggest around how I sell and the way I work is just being very straightforward and honest.
Amazing. That was more than one thing. I'm going to break it down in another
I know, right?
video. Yeah, no, it was a lot. It was amazing because you were hitting a lot of, I'm a sales rep. And so you were saying a lot of things that was just hitting experiences that I have today. I am on back-to-back calls, but this is not about me. This is about you. So I'm going to stop right there. I'll break up that video because there's a lot to unpack. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to see you. Your smile always makes me happy. Please stick around. Enjoy your water, your drink, if you have anything with you. Say hi to our audience, and I'm gonna close out. Here we go.
Sounds great.
Closers, I hope you enjoyed learning more about Josh and his journey to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Imagine being homeschooled, becoming a popular kid in school, creating viral videos, rap videos to start your inbound lead generation, building a partnership program that transforms into a HubSpot Platinum partner. What is that? It's a partner that generates $750,000 selling HubSpot software. I believe that this is a journey that you can go on, and that the biggest mistake you can ever make is to not turn your skill set into services. If you become an expert in going viral, why not turn that into a business where you help others go viral? If you have 100,000 followers on TikTok or Instagram, why not teach others on how to do that? Turn your skill set into a service. Josh was able to turn his social ability, his charisma, into partnerships, strong enough to provide value that is founded on HubSpot's technology. You don't need to build software. You can service around other people's software. So listen up, learn quick, apply, and exercise these tips. They will change you if you let it. In the following weeks, we will have Eric Singh, David Smook, Amanda Greenberg. They will all share their secrets on how to make millions of dollars. So tune in, subscribe if you haven't done so. Until next time, keep on closing. Peace. Becoming a successful entrepreneur isn't easy, but it's not impossible. Subscribe to my channel today, and together, let's figure out how to grow.
Bring that ass back like a boom boom.